Hi, and
Hello,
I'm Graham, and
I'm Annette.
welcome to this webinar again on balancing sexual desire and relationship. We did this topic last week and got quite a lot of response from quite a few different people and some sessions and bits and pieces, and we decided to do it again because it's a fairly big topic, fairly topical. So here we are again.
And as we're all about relationships and relationship gold at Oz Tantra, we thought we'd definitely take some time to cover this question, which seems to create some pain in relationship between couples. And we've had some questions during the week, and we've had a great question from a gentleman who, are you okay there, Graham?
Yeah, it's just not coming up. Keep going.
Okay, we've had a great question from a gentleman who has been talking about daily devotion, and that's something that he really loves, but is finding it a bit of a challenge in integrating it into his relationship. And for those of you who are watching who haven't heard of daily devotion, it's a well-renowned tantric practice which is about connecting to what's beyond all the doing in sex. And it's a practice where basically it's about coming into union and then not doing anything. Well, not doing anything on the outside. So it's not about arousal, it's not about orgasm, it's not about, as I said, about what you do, but it's about what you experience. And so basically when you start the practice, it's having the desire, the intention to come together to connect. And there's just enough arousal for the man to allow penetration to occur, and using lubricant, obviously, because the woman's not seeking to be aroused in herself, but just allowing the connection to happen. And then after that, it's just a connection of the bodies together, and each of you are in like a meditation space. So you just breathe and just be in the moment, not trying to get to a goal, not trying to make anything happen, not trying to orgasm, not any of those doing things, and just experiencing what is. In that way, it's very much like a meditation, and the idea of it is to see if you can go beyond the attachment to getting anywhere in lovemaking, and just experiencing the beingness of lovemaking, which can really invite a whole new dimension into your experience that goes beyond the physical. So that's basically the idea of the practice, and it's a really beautiful practice. It's a great one to do. You can either do it for an hour at a time, or you can just do it for 10 minutes at a time. And what we usually encourage people to do is to do it as a separate practice. So not necessarily as part of your lovemaking routine, but as something that you set some separate time aside, and you both have the intention of coming together for that daily devotion practice. And the question that we had from this particular gentleman is that he's not with his partner every night, so they're not living together. And when they do get together, he's really looking to drop into the stillness of the practice, and his partner is keen to have some movement, have some arousal, and have some action happening. So this is a great question because it really brings out a lot of different layers of both the meditation experience and also the relationship experience. So, and it's not that either of you are wrong. Thank you, Graham, for the technology there.
It's working.
It's not that either of you are doing anything wrong. It's just that you're coming from slightly different perspectives. And so obviously you who the man who is looking to drop into the stillness, that's something that you've really found really works for you. And you're really wanting to go to that place and stay there. And that is a really beautiful thing to be able to do. But one of the challenges of that place is that if the woman is either not understanding where you're coming from, which is the first thing. So I guess it's really about having a conversation with your partner and talking about what the practice is for you, and just hearing, is there a time when maybe not the first time that you get together after you've been separate for a while, that may not be the necessarily ideal time to practice the daily devotion, because your partner might be desiring some more intensity, perhaps. So maybe there's a time
or something different, because there is difference between men and women, how they perceive intimacy and how they show up in intimacy, and also too how they are in that, particularly around sexuality. An example is in massage, is that if you're a couple and you want to learn about not only yourself but also your partner, is as a man, when your partner is giving you a massage, take note of how she's massaging you, because that's how she wants to be massaged, and it'll be very different to how you massage her, which is how you want to be massaged. And it's a great way with awareness about learning about each other and the difference. And to put it into perspective, like when you start massaging a woman, it's at the extremities, the toes, tips of her fingers, through her hair, the edge of her body. If you can imagine she had a bra and knickers on, is where those clothes are as the last place. If you're massaging for 3/4 of an hour, you don't touch anywhere near those places, or just very briefly, lightly over the top until the very last part. Whereas with a guy, that's the first place to start. So with a woman, it's like, imagine the extremities is touching her there and bringing all the energy and intensity into her sexual center. And that's how a woman is to bring it into her sexual center. For us guys, we're different in that's where you start. But the trick is not to just start there, otherwise we finish quickly, is to start there, but to take it out from to the rest of our body. And when you're massaging, when you're giving and you're receiving, is to understand just simply the difference. And this simple little trick is how, one of the big differences between men and women, but it's so poorly understood. And it's such a simple thing to bring into your practice. And just try it. Just have a conversation about it. How would you like to be touched? And if she says, "Oh, I just like to be touched, I don't really know," it's okay. Then play. And if you looked at this, there's 3 types of erotic massage, 3 different levels. There's primary, secondary, and tertiary, or erogenous zones, I suppose. And to put it into perspective, in erotic massage, that the genitals are in the primary. And that surprises a lot of people. The secondary and the tertiary erogenous zones, if you went straight to the tertiary zones, and this part of your hand here is an example, that's tertiary. If you go straight there, it feels nice, but it's nowhere near the intensity that if the sexual energy is built up from a man and a woman, if the sexual energy is built up and it's an erotic massage, that just simply running your hands up there, down the back of the arm, the elbow, inside the elbow, the back of the knees, around the back of the toes, they're the really sensitive parts. And a woman will feel those parts first before a man does. So it's like the body's got to be awakened. And a lot of the difference in desire and sexual desire in each men and women is purely and simply from lack of understanding. And it's not that we don't feel or can't feel or anything like that. It's just that we've got crap built up of emotional stuff. And what the first place that hits when there's a lot of emotional intensity happening on, the first thing that happens is it's usually around our sexuality, our sensuality, that gets closed down. And it's not that we can't feel, it's that we put roadblocks, speed bumps in the way. And it's not that you can't feel it, it's just that what have you done to stop yourself from feeling? And quite often in long-term relationships, erotic touch, erotic play can actually be quite challenging, because it brings a lot of hurts up, frustrations, fears and stuff from the past. And that's perfectly okay. And that's usually where one partner will have more of that out in front, than the other, and that's usually where the imbalance sort of comes into play, and it's fairly common. And it's not that difficult to deal with. It's just a matter of just simply recognizing it. And erotic massage is usually a good way to find out why. And if you're the one that's got the lower libido in your relationship, is allow yourself to be touched, whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter. Mostly now we're finding that it's men that have got the dropping of libidos, particularly as they get older. And it's not so much that they're losing interest in sex or anything like that. It's more the fact that it's just a build-up of emotional stuff that hasn't been dealt with, and allowing yourself to be touched, just like the Nike slogan, just do it. Just go there, allow yourself to be touched, and just be present and aware of what actually comes up with you, particularly if you're a man and you're receiving a massage the way a woman wants to touch. And allow yourself to go there and just see what comes up. And you may be amazed at just how much extra you can feel, because erotic touch, sensual touch in a relationship is a very, very powerful healing. Just simply the hardest part is about giving yourself permission to actually go there. And, think of the Nike slogan, just do it and just see what comes up.
And what we mean by erotic touch is really touch that has no particular end point. It's really sensual touch that is about enjoying the moment rather than trying to actually activate and get a goal to happen. The goal usually being orgasm, but more just being able to experience what are you feeling in the moment right here and right now. And one of the ideas that you can play with around touch is for a man touching a woman is, as Graham said, is just having the mental image of the bikini and going to those areas last. And for a woman, starting with the guy's genitals and then moving out. So continuing to pay some attention to the genitals, but moving the touch out from that center. And it can be fun just to play with the idea of your skin has very fine gold dust, and as you're touching that gold dust, you're kind of collecting it up and moving it. For a woman, moving it into the center, and for a man, there is a big pile of gold dust right in his genital area, and you're seeking to spread that gold dust all the way over his body. And what Graham's brought up is those differences between men and women, and getting back to our man that has the concern with the daily devotion. It's one of those things that I think may be coming up in this situation, is that there is part of a woman that really wants to feel met by a man, and until she really feels that, then it's harder for her to drop into that place of stillness if she's really in that place of craving, of yearning to really feel him. And that may be some of your partner's resistance to dropping into the space. So initially it may be that she's just not necessarily clear around the daily devotional practice, so having a conversation around that, and also choosing to have your daily devotion practice separate from your lovemaking. And then in the lovemaking itself is, where are you at with that? Are you able to really fully meet your woman when she is aroused? How is that for you? How is that for her? Just asking her, is she feeling like she can really, can she move? Can she feel? Can she just let herself go and feel that you will be able to be there and stay there and hold her in that place? If that's not happening at this point, then maybe that is part of what's driving your partner, as well as the not understanding, is that she's looking for that part of her that really needs to be met, wants to be met, for her to then be able to say, okay, this is a safe place. I can really just drop in and be in that place of nothingness, in that place of stillness. So that's one part of the coin. So having a conversation about that, and also looking at your own experience in lovemaking. What are you doing? How are you being in that the lasting longer place, the really being able to be in penetration with the intensity. I hear that you're very good in the place of stillness, and how are you in that place of intensity? Can you really meet your woman when she's intense? And do you have that place of intense feeling and managing your own sexual energy, and feel like you're getting the most out of that place for yourself?
And as men, the importance for us is what we bring into a relationship, what we bring into this erotic space is our masculinity, our sense of self in our heart. I mean, it might sound a bit woo and touchy-feely.
It's very soft and sensitive, Graham.
Yeah, all that. What we actually bring in is our open heart. If you ask your partner, as a man asks a woman, what it is that she wants to feel from you, and it's, she wants to feel your sensual, sexual heart. She wants to feel that, and that's what a woman. If a woman can feel that in her man, she actually feels safe. She opens up to that, and going into erotic massage, sensual touch, or daily devotion, or whatever it is you're going into, the most important thing for you as a man is it's not about getting it up. I mean, that's important, but the first thing is to actually be in your feeling body, to actually really feel grounded, connected to yourself. And for men, it's really challenging in our culture because everything's so intellectual. It's all up here, the information and the intellect and all that stuff that's needed now is huge. And it's available and it's out there and it's very challenging and it does keep us up in our heads. And for us as men, we really do need to be in this part of our masculine selves. And what does that is physical activity, walking, playing sport, things like cutting wood, painting the house, cutting the garden, mowing the lawns. Some men, a lot of men work, physically at work, and that's really important. So if you can just recognize what you're feeling in here, when you sit down, close your eyes and just say, okay, what am I feeling? That's the part of you that your woman wants to feel. And when you're going into daily devotion is for you to, or into erotic massage or even lovemaking, is for you to feel this part of yourself, is to be selfish and come back to this part of yourself. And in that, your woman will feel safe and she will open to that. Because this is what a man brings into a relationship. What a woman brings in is her equivalent of this, but it's her sexuality. So the pathway in for a man is through his heart. The pathway in for a woman is through her sexuality. And, when you look at the pornography industry and the romance industry, the whole thing's turned around back to front. And those things take both men and women, because the romance industry, it has the same effect on a relationship as what porn does. The same effect on a woman and the same effect on a man as what the porn industry does. And it's very, very, very poorly understood, that dynamic. And there's so much focus on men and porn, but the romance side of it is overlooked. And it has just as a debilitating effect on a relationship and sexuality and sensuality connection as what porn does.
And what that looks like for a woman is really it's that in romance, it's the man who comes along and he has all the answers, and the woman doesn't have to actually show up in herself, doesn't have to, she's more passive. And so this perfect man comes along and he makes everything happen, which is kind of the flip side of often what we see in porn. Is there the women are all just doing it and the man just has to show up and it all happens for him. So it's an important aspect to look at, is where am I in this experience? Am I looking at the person, my partner, to bring all of the action, to make me feel a certain way, to get the technique right, to do everything so that I can then feel pleasure, that I can then feel have an orgasm? Am I putting all of my focus onto what the other person should be doing? And what that does is that it takes our attention away from ourselves. And mostly when we're looking at the other person, they may be, because they're them and they're not us, they don't necessarily intuitively know exactly what we want. And especially with us as women, it changes. What we want can change quite often in lovemaking. So it's not about looking to act out those stereotypes. It's about coming home to the self. And I know that we keep going on and on about this, but really, ultimately, the more that you can drop inside yourself and let go of all of those ideas about how things should look, especially about, for a woman, how we should be, and just be with how we are, then lovemaking really becomes the power, the pleasure, the love. It all happens inside of us without any effort. It's becoming connected, and inside of ourselves is the hardest part. Once we're in there, then everything else just flows. It doesn't become a have to. It doesn't become a trying to get it right. We just flow and just experience it. And it's a challenge because it's the opposite to what we're told out there in society. It's really, we're often looking for the answers outside of ourselves. And it's the other point from that gentleman who was talking about the daily devotion, when everything has light and shadow in it. There are always two sides to the coin, and one side of the coin of daily devotion is that in that place of stillness, we do really go to a different place in lovemaking, because we go out of the doing into the being, and that can really take us to a place of expansion. It can take us to a place of meditation where all sorts of amazing things happen because we're just open and available. But the flip side of that, the shadow side of that, is that we can use that as a way of controlling our environment. So what that looks like is that we need that stillness on the outside of us, with our partner being in stillness as well, before we can actually connect to ourselves. And it's like we need that external experience to connect on the inside. And that's a good place to start when it's harder for us to connect with ourselves. But if you feel like you have that connection already, the next place is to learn how to connect with the inside and find that peace, that stillness on the inside, no matter what it looks like on the outside. So it's a little bit like the difference between being able to meditate beautifully while sitting on the side of a hill in a beautiful sunny day where it's peaceful all around, and we can embody that experience inside of us then. That's the first level of practice. The next level of practice is being able to feel that peacefulness, that connection, that flow, or whatever it is that you want to feel inside of you when you're walking down the street in the middle of the busy traffic, or if you're in at a rock concert or in a war zone, or no matter what's going on around you, or if you're in lovemaking with a woman who's really going for it and she's making lots of noise and having lots of fun. It's being able to find that stillness within, no matter what the external experience is like. And that's another level of being inside of yourself, which is what Graham was saying earlier about being able to feel inside your body, and doing the breathing practices, breathing deeply into yourself and just being with that rather than needing it to be on the outside.
And for men, it's the same thing, but it's different. It's different for us because, like, we're very pictorial, I suppose, image. Like, we like curves. And that's an important part for us. And women, this is really important. Guys do like the shape of a woman, and
no matter what your shape is, women,
yep,
they love curves.
It doesn't matter what he says. What he says to you is true, and it doesn't matter what your shape or size or any of that sort of thing. It doesn't matter. It's you in that body, and it's got curves, and that's what a guy likes. And it's really, really important that you hear and understand what he does say to you. And guys, it's important for you to tell to tell your woman what you think, what you like, what you like about her, and really to connect with her shape and her body, and to actually really really go there with that. And if you're a guy that has trouble either lasting or has trouble, getting it up, or when you do, you can go for hours and not feel anything, that's that's not it's not a big issue. Mentally, for us, it's a huge issue, and that's usually what makes it worse. So, sort of saying, well, okay, I've got this issue at the moment. I need to do something about it. The skills to do something about it, wherever you are, are not that difficult. There's a lot of products and stuff out there that are sold that I don't know whether they work or not. There's a lot of myth around some of them. If you do have issues, the first cab off the rank, go and see your doctor, particularly as you get older. And also too, if you're on some sort of medication, whether it's blood pressure or antidepressant or something like that, those things also have an impact as well. So have a chat to your doctor. Yeah, have a chat to your doctor if your libido's not going down. It's normal, because with menopause for men, what menopause for men is when basically the testosterone stops driving. Like when you're in your 20s, testosterone is just raging through your veins, and you can charge the ramparts and knock any wall over, and take any woman off her feet. But as you get older, that drops down, and it's not that your sex drive is any less. What happens when you get older is that it's not driven by hormones anymore, it's driven by choice. And this choice gets a lot of men by surprise, and that's usually the midlife crisis type, when all of a sudden, oh my gosh, what's happening? I'm losing direction. What do I do now? Oh my God, my life is, I know it's over. Purely and simply, it's not being driven by hormones anymore. It now becomes a choice. And in that place of choice, it's much more powerful, because it does become a choice, and you can choose how you are in that, really choose. And it's not about saying, okay, I'm going to do this. It's okay, I now own that I'm a sexual male, I own that I enjoy sex, and I own that I want to do this. And with those points, that's the hardest part. If you can realize that and recognize that and own that and choose that, the rest is, it'll happen. It'll happen. And in that place, from what I see, like I'm in my late 50s now, when I'm talking to other men, that it's the best, it's the best time of their lives. It's not driven by hormones. You've got control of it. You own it, and you choose. And you're not driven by all of the petty little frustrations of the past. It becomes something that's much more powerful, much more embodied, and infinitely more pleasurable. And if your libido is dropping down, it's not the end of the world, because the reality is a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of support, and also making it a team sport in your relationship. You'd be amazed at where you can come back to and what you can actually create with that. And bringing balance in sexual desire and relationships, particularly as you get older, is a hell of a lot of fun. It's it's challenging, and there's some stuff in there, and it's you're coming face to face with some of your demons. But the other side of that is is a sex life, a lovemaking with your partner beyond your wildest dreams. And it doesn't matter. My experience so far is it doesn't matter how far I go down this pathway. There's always more. And my belief in this place is that it's limitless. It's never ending, and it's not in an overt way that it's just leaking out all over the place. It's in a way that's life force energy standing up in that and fully embodying it, and it becomes it becomes a lifestyle. And it's not about bonking everything that moves. It's about you owning your power, because your sexuality is your life force. It's your power. And as you get older, you're more into embodying that. For the young guys that are listening to this, some of our other webinars, there's one that we've got which talks about what it actually looks like for you, and having an image as a young guy of this is what's happening for me, and this is what's in front of me. Gives you a goal to look for. But the most important thing for a young guy is to actually own that your sexuality is a very precious gift. It's sacred to you. And that the more you abuse it, you're actually abusing yourself. So owning your sexuality is something that's sacred, and honoring that and respecting yourself when you show up in sexual space is hugely important. And if you've got that as a young guy, it'll really stand by you as you get older. If all you do is hearing my words, is recognize that, well, okay, maybe I can do things a bit differently. It's about honoring yourself and respecting yourself. And for those guys, it doesn't matter what age you are, you'll understand and see where you are in this. And this simple little point is one of the main reasons why men drop away from sexuality as they get older. Their libido drops away. It's not that they can't do it, they can't have it anymore. It's just that it goes from being hormone driven, which, you know, younger, it's a lot of fun, but it's a bit untidy. But as you get older, that hormone becomes less, and it's not that you're driven less. It then becomes a choice, and in the place of choice as you get older, that's seriously good fun, and you can choose how you are and choose what you be, and that's, you know, it sounds simple, but it takes a lifetime to get that, and you know, it does. That's the way it is. It's a fact of life, really.
And what Graham is saying about a man just simply owning that he is a sexual male and his sexuality is sacred is about healing a lot of the experiences that men have in their earlier years, which often is about trying to go straight for the goal, or it's about trying to hurry up and get it over with before you get rejected, or maybe even not trying because of that fear of rejection. And because guys are generally the proposers of sexual experiences over their lifetime, they get rejected a lot, and that ability to keep coming back and keep putting yourself out there over the years after experiencing a lot of rejection is part of what actually allows your libido to become emotionally flattened. It's because there is that unexpressed pain that you carry inside of you. And so that's where the challenge comes of validating that part of you and not trying to get in there and to get inside a woman as quickly as you can to avoid actually being seen as a sexual male, to get it in there and get it over with, but actually to validate that part of you. Take your time and really allow yourself to feel, not just do, but allow yourself to feel as well.
And in this place, like, it's incredibly complex. And, you know, in these talks too, that everybody's had a different experience. Like, men are always different, and relationships are always different. It's why I like this area so much, because it's just so fascinating. And in that place, just because we're all different doesn't mean that it's difficult or impossible to deal with. It's actually pretty simple. The hardest part is to actually make for you, and for me as well too, is to actually say, okay, I'm going to do something about this. And that's the hardest part, because once you decide to, the rest is easy. You know, some things can be fixed incredibly quickly. You know, 5-minute conversation is enough to change somebody's life. Sometimes it might take a couple of months. You know, depends. Everybody's different. And the main thing is to just recognise that you can sit with it and let it control you, or you can say, well, okay, I'm going to do something about this. And it's the decision to do something about it that is actually the hardest part. From then on, it gets easier. And the more you do it, the more you get involved in, you know, this part of yourself, whether you're a man or a woman, the more you get involved with this part of yourself, the more you probably find there is to do. But the good thing about this is the easier it is to do it, because you become empowered in finding your own way forward. Just like you become your own guru. You're not dependent on somebody else. That it's you that's learning this. It's you that's actually benefiting from it. It's you that's experiencing it, and it's you that becomes the authority on you. And that's the key in this place. Is it's not about taking a tablet or getting somebody else to keep fixing you. It's about you learning how to do it yourself. And in this place is where the real good stuff happens, is that you become empowered in your own journey, take control of your own journey, and you know, that's where the serious fun happens. You know, taking a tablet may be all right for a little while, but the secret of taking a tablet is to get something started until you can actually really take control yourself. And around your sexuality, that's where the real gold is. You know, not relying on a tablet, but taking responsibility. And you may need to keep taking the tablets, you know, now and then, or for whatever, you know, whatever your doctor says. But the real way forward is taking control of your own destiny, your own sexuality, and standing up in that and owning it. And you know, one of the things that I deal with men is simply having a conversation. And sometimes, you know, a roadblock for a guy, he's thinking it's in the bedroom, but the reality is, might be something at work, might be something that happened when he was a kid, which is the most common one. nothing at all to do with the bedroom. The bedroom is where it comes out. But where it's got to be, where we've got to deal with it might be, when he was 3 or 4 years old, or 10 years old, and it's not that difficult to deal with, and it's not that difficult to find. But where it comes out is the imbalance in a relationship, the imbalance in sexuality in a relationship, and the longer you leave it there, the more intense the outcome of not doing anything becomes. And the smart money is on taking control of your life, taking control of your sexuality, and being proactive and positive and doing something about it.
And where the man often is experiencing rejection in sexuality, it seems like a woman's common experience is actually self-rejection, that whole place that a woman gets to, which is about feeling that she's not good enough, or trying to hide even being seen in sex. You might want to keep the light off and not allow yourself to be seen by your partner, but just remembering that you're a much harder judge of your physical body than what your partner is. Men love curves, and if you're a woman, you've got curves no matter what your shape, whether you're pretty straight up and down or whether you're round and voluptuous. There are still those curves around the breasts and around the hips that really attract a man. And so if you can give yourself permission to let go of some of those judgments and just trust that when he says that you are beautiful, that's really what he's seeing, and not necessarily what you're seeing with all those judgments that we're so capable of. And just understanding men too, that where men are visual, women are very oral often. And so those words of affirmation, if you can hear them and we can allow them to go in, they can really open up ourselves sexually. Because if we're feeling attractive, if we're feeling like we're really being desired, that can certainly help us to give ourselves permission to love ourselves. And that's part of what sexuality is about for a woman, is really being able to feel that love for herself, that being able to be inside of herself and really feeling. So not just waiting for her man to come along and do the right technique to make her feel, but actually, what are you doing as a woman to allow yourself to feel, to actually love yourself? Because feeling yourself and allowing yourself to feel good is another way of loving yourself. And it's an important part of lovemaking for a woman is to give yourself permission to be however you are. And as Graham was also saying before, one of the things that stops pleasure in sex can be those little roadblocks that we have around feeling ourselves. And this judgment that women have on ourselves is one of the biggest emotional blocks that we can have, because judgment can really keep us right up in our heads and can make our bodies feel really numb. So can you give yourself permission to love yourself? Can you give yourself permission to not be perfect, to not have an orgasm exactly when your partner thinks that you should or when you think you should, but to actually just give yourself permission to feel and to really be fully present with that feeling? Because from little things, big things grow. It might not be the biggest experience at the start, but if you can trust that and trust yourself and what you're feeling, and take time, allow yourself time to really drop into your body and to experience what you're feeling, again, whether it's just a little tingle of pleasure across the back of the neck, or whether it's around your breasts, not even your nipples, but whether it's in your breasts, or just check into your heart. What are you feeling inside your heart? Are you breathing? Are you holding yourself still and tight? Are you allowing yourself to relax, to soften and move, and to breathe? So these are the things that really a woman can do to connect with herself and to bring that to the table, rather than sitting back and expecting the man to do everything, is to take responsibility for your own sexuality and to actually see this as not something that you have to do, which is another job that you tick off at the end of the day, but something that is very nurturing self-loving and the way to better sex.
And that pretty much is probably enough on this topic for tonight. Thank you for listening, and
thank you for joining us.
If you want to find out more about our webinars, the webinar site on the AusTantra website is the links to all our webinar, and also to the link for the next one as well. You'll be notified through our newsletter, but there'll also be a link on the website on that web page. And it'll probably be in a couple of weeks. So we've got our couples workshop in Bali starting in a couple of days. So
Wednesday.
we'll be off for that one, and we'll do one when we get back, and we'll notify you of the topic. So thank you and good night.
Good night.